So I was in Masterton and I saw on the news there was an item about how a punk anarchist had blown himself up outside the Whanganui Computer Centre, and I just thought, oh, that sounds like the kind of thing Neil would do.
An explosion blew out the front doors of the Whanganui Computer Centre at 25 to 1 this morning. The explosion killed one person, believed to be a young man who's understood to have been carrying a bomb. The force of the blast was such that the police were initially unable to determine the sex of the person killed.
You know, Neil Roberts really tapped into ill feeling about the computer. You know, people did not like the way things were being recorded. He kind of foresaw the sort of devastating erosion of privacy rights.
What it was about was the police computer in Whanganui, which was the first attempt, the first go in New Zealand of having an organised computer list of all the citizens that they could get onto one register, and their convictions, and their parking tickets, and any sort of police kind of information about them, which was a huge change from the past at that stage. And we didn't know it, but it was actually, you know, just the beginning of what was going to become much greater over the years after.
So I met Neil, I think in 1981, so I was at Auckland University then. He was a really lovely guy. He was a really kind of friendly, outgoing, chatty, smiley kind of person. But I do remember him talking about wanting to blow something up one day. I didn't know that he would actually do that.
I think a lot of people would see it as quite an extreme act to go and take however many kilograms of gelignite that he took into the police computer building to blow it up. But I can see the frustrations that were happening around that time.
It's a difficult moment in our history, you know. I guess it came out of the context of the Muldoon era. We had the Māori protest movements, nuclear-free protests, and then just the year before, we had, of course, the events that really sort of divided the country, which was the Springbok tour. So my work has a long-standing commitment to narratives and histories that have been erased in some cases, or that have been sort of covered over. The words that I used of his were taken from the South American independence movement in La Paz, which is now Bolivia, and the words were, "We have maintained a silence closely resembling stupidity." He wrote them on the wall of the public toilets in Parkai Tori, or Motua Gardens, which is right opposite Wairere House. In a way, those words are a bit of a jibe from Neil Roberts to us. You know, they're sort of taking a poke at our lethargy, I guess, in political terms, you know.
I didn't have any sense that Neil had mental health issues. I mean, that's not to say that he did or he didn't, but you know, it wasn't anything I ever noticed.
Certainly it wasn't like somebody who's deluded or persuaded or so desperate with their lives that they walk out into a marketplace and blow themselves up and other people around them. It just wasn't like that. The point is that suicide bomber has completely different connotations these days. It means killing other people. This is much more in the tradition, for example, of those monks who burnt themselves in front of Parliament buildings and things.
1984 was written at the end of the 40s. By the early 80s, it was very much, you know, becoming a reality with people being monitored and things like that. If we go upstairs right now, every single corner of the street is covered by CCTV cameras. You know, you look at then how much people interact with the internet and how much all those actions are then tracked. I don't think in the early 80s anyone could have really foreseen how much power the police would have, how much power corporations would have, how much would be monitored in our daily lives, you know.
Looking back, that police computer in Whanganui was pretty innocuous. It was a central collection of police data. What's happened since is that there have been all kinds of technological developments which have allowed watching of people down the streets by CCTV cameras, digital tracking of people, which means that when somebody steals a wallet or gets lost or anything, the police are instantly accessing their mobile phone data and knowing possibly where they've been, but certainly everyone they've texted and who all their friends are and things, through to the potential to monitor people's lives if their computer is seized or if somebody's monitoring their emails. And so we've gone from an era where it was scary to imagine having your name and police record in a centralised place to where there is digital storage of huge parts of our lives, works, loves, fears, secrets and things.
It is a massive call to blow yourself up for your beliefs. And I think it's interesting that so many people don't know about Neil Roberts, whereas we've just had Guy Fawkes Day and everyone's pets were being terrified a few days ago with fireworks going off, yet there'll be a very few people in New Zealand, or indeed the world, that would be talking about Neil Roberts.
Blowing ourselves up is probably the least effective way to do something, and if Neil Roberts had stayed alive and spent all the years after writing about and talking about privacy and digital privacy, he would have done a great more good for the world. We live in a country where a motivated individual can do stuff their whole life long and make a lot of difference. And so despair might be an attractive idea, or at some stage where it might happen to some people when it all seems too much, but it's not correct, because actually there are other ways to do it here.